You never forget the moment your whole world changes. For me, it was a Tuesday evening in our modest little home in Concord, New Hampshire. I was in the kitchen, halfway through chopping onions for Dana's favorite stir-fry, when she walked in and dropped the sentence that would rewrite everything I thought I knew. "I'm leaving you, Craig." I turned, expecting a smirk, some twisted joke. But her eyes, ice cold and bone dry, held none of the woman I married. "For who?" I managed, voice caught in my throat. "For the man I should have married in the first place," she said, setting her purse down with surgical finality. "This whole marriage, it was a mistake." I let the knife rest on the cutting board. My heartbeat felt like it had doubled, then stopped altogether. "Is this because we argued about you missing dinner last week?" She laughed, not kindly. "No, Craig. It's because I woke up and realized I've been living someone else's life. Your life. The safe, predictable one with the perfect schedule and the beige couch and the same breakfast every damn morning." I took a breath. "You mean a life with stability? With someone who never lied to you? Someone who made a home and paid bills and never once gave up on you?" "Exactly," she snapped, like I'd proved her point. "You're so proud of being the steady guy, but I'm suffocating in your reliability." It hit me then. This wasn't spontaneous. She'd rehearsed this. Memorized it, maybe. She wasn't talking to me like her husband. She was delivering a speech. "You've been talking to him, haven't you?" I asked, and even as the words came out, I knew. Her silence was confirmation. "While I was working late to cover that roof repair, you were texting him." She folded her arms, defensive now. "Don't turn this into your little wounded martyr act." I almost laughed. "You're seriously throwing away a marriage, 3 years of trust, because life got too comfortable?" "No," she said flatly. "I'm leaving because I finally have the guts to chase what I want. Not what's good for me, not what makes sense on paper." I looked at her, the woman who once cried happy tears at our wedding because I'd vowed to always protect her, and saw someone else entirely. She picked up her keys. "He makes me feel alive, not maintained." I stood rooted as she walked to the door, and turned back just before stepping out. "Don't wait up, Craig. I won't be back tonight." The door shut behind her like a judge's gavel. I stared down at the stove. The onions were starting to burn. Can you imagine that? 1 second, you're making dinner for your wife. The next, you're realizing she's been planning her exit like a vacation itinerary. And the worst part? You never saw it coming. But here's the thing. This wasn't the end. Not for me. This was just the moment I stopped being the man she expected and started becoming the man she'd regret ever leaving. The stir-fry went cold. I never turned off the stove. Just stood there, staring at the pan while the smell of burnt onions slowly filled the kitchen. Eventually, I sat down at the dining table. 2 plates, 2 sets of silverware, her wine glass half filled, like she'd been here in body but gone in spirit long before tonight. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I just sat there, hollowed out, my hands on the table, still smelling faintly of garlic, while my wife of 3 years was out with the man she said she should have married instead. It wasn't just betrayal. It was erasure. Like everything we'd built, the road trips, the inside jokes, the late nights watching documentaries she never understood but pretended to enjoy, had been a placeholder until someone better came along. The silence in the house was brutal. Every creak of the floor, every tick of the clock sounded like it was mocking me, reminding me that I'd lost something I didn't even know was in danger. An hour passed, maybe more. That's when the knock came. It was my sister, Allison. She didn't wait for me to invite her in. Just took one look at my face and stepped through the door like she'd been expecting this moment. "She's gone," I said, and the words tasted bitter in my mouth. Allison nodded like she already knew. I figured. "I saw her car parked outside some guy's condo on Main last week." I blinked. "You what?" She hesitated, setting down her purse. I wasn't sure if I should say anything. But yeah, I saw her. Same black dress she wore to your anniversary dinner last year. Different man. Same smirk. It hit me harder than Dana's words. This wasn't new. This wasn't sudden. She'd been laying the foundation for this betrayal while I was busy fixing leaky pipes and grocery shopping on Sundays. "She's been cheating?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Allison gave me that look, older sister mode, half pity, half fire. "I think so. Craig, she's been checked out for months." I didn't want to interfere, but I couldn't lie if you asked me directly. I felt something twist in my chest. Not pain exactly. Something closer to clarity. A cold understanding. Dana hadn't just walked out. She'd been gradually disappearing, layer by layer. Smiling less. Dodging questions. Spending more time at yoga or with friends, and always coming home late. I'd explained it away. Stress. Work. Life. But now, I saw it all for what it was, a slow, calculated exit. She said I made her feel like a prisoner. I told Allison, my voice tight, that I controlled her, that I tracked her every move. Allison scoffed. Please, you're the least controlling man I know. She used that excuse because she knew it'd make you doubt yourself. That's manipulation, not truth. I swallowed hard. She said she never got to be young and wild, that I kept her from freedom. Then why'd she marry you, Craig? Why say yes to a ring she clearly never respected? That question hung in the air like smoke. Allison moved to the kitchen and started cleaning up the untouched dinner without asking. You don't deserve this. And you sure as hell don't deserve to be the man who waits around hoping she changes her mind. I looked down at the empty chair across from me. I'm not waiting, I said slowly. I'm learning. And I meant it. Because in that quiet kitchen, with my sister scraping burnt onions into the trash and my heart sitting somewhere on the floor, I realized something vital. She may have chosen to leave me, but I still got to choose what happened next. 3 weeks passed. 3 quiet, stubborn weeks where I didn't call, didn't text, didn't check her socials. I didn't need to. Rumors had a way of drifting in through the cracks. Allison kept me updated in fragments. Through mutual friends, through whispers around town. Dana had moved in with him. The man she said made her feel alive. The man she should have married instead of me. Some part of me expected it to crush me. To hear she'd landed exactly where she wanted. But something strange happened instead. I started sleeping better. The nightmares faded. The constant buzz of anxiety in my chest, the one I hadn't even realized was always there, quieted. The house, which used to echo with her absence, now just felt still, peaceful even. I started cooking again. Not for anyone else, just me. Stir fry, sure, but also steak. Risotto. The lasagna she always said was too much work. I rearranged the living room. Moved her succulents off the windowsill. Bought Real curtains instead of the ones she insisted matched the energy. And then came the call. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was at my desk, the same job I'd been working for 6 years, mid-level operations at a logistics company. Steady work. Nothing fancy. Craig, my boss said, knocking once before stepping into my office. Got a minute? He sat across from me and slid over a single-page offer letter. Promotion. Significant raise. Bigger office. More responsibilities. I blinked. Is this real? He chuckled. You've earned it. You've held this team together through storms. Figured it was time someone recognized that. I read the letter 3 times before signing. After work, I sat in my car longer than usual, staring at the dashboard, feeling this quiet, unfamiliar thing swelling in my chest. Pride. Not the loud, boastful kind. The calm kind. The kind that says, you're not broken. You're just not done yet. That weekend, I went to the gym for the first time in over a year. Signed up for a community woodworking class. Cleared out the guest room and turned it into a home office. And every night, before bed, I wrote. Not essays. Not revenge fantasies. Just thoughts. Feelings. Pieces of me I hadn't looked at in years. Things I didn't realize I'd let rot while trying to keep Dana happy. I didn't miss her. Not really. What I missed was the version of me I used to be before I became a man apologizing for wanting consistency. For wanting a partner who saw loyalty as a strength, not a leash. This was the beginning of something. I didn't know what, not exactly. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I was rebuilding. And this time, the foundation was mine. Weddings used to feel like promises. Now they felt like cautionary tales. I hadn't planned to go, honestly. The thought of being surrounded by first dances, champagne toasts, and tearful vows after what Dana pulled felt like salt in a wound. But it was Mark's wedding, one of the few people who stood by me through it all. He was more than a friend. He was family. So I showed up, suit pressed, hair cut short for the first time in months. I didn't bring a date, but I carried something better, clarity. The ceremony was simple, beautiful. Laughter echoed under the canopy of maple trees. I stood near the back, sipping ginger ale, making light conversation, trying not to look over my shoulder too often. Then I saw her. Dana. She arrived late, slipping into the back of the reception like a ghost haunting a place she no longer belonged. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, not the elegant style she used to obsess over. Her dress, once tight-fitting and flawless, hung loosely on her frame. And the sunglasses? Worn indoors, long past sunset. That wasn't fashion. That was hiding. She avoided eye contact, not just with me, but with almost everyone. I watched her decline drinks, flinch when someone touched her shoulder, and smile too quickly, too falsely. People noticed. At our table, someone leaned toward me. She's not doing well, huh? I kept my expression neutral. Why do you say that? The woman hesitated. I ran into her last week. She was distant, anxious, jumping at her phone like it might explode. She's with that guy still, right? The one she left you for? I nodded once. She lowered her voice. Word is, he's not who she thought he was. Controlling. Cold. Maybe worse. My stomach clenched, but I didn't let it show. She made her choice, I said simply. Later, I stepped out to the balcony for air. That's when I saw Dana again, alone by the fence, staring at the wedding lights like they hurt her eyes. For a second, I wondered if she'd approach, if she'd say something, anything. But she didn't. She just stood there, arms crossed tightly over her chest, like she was trying to hold herself together. And I realized something in that moment. I wasn't angry anymore. Not because she deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. She had traded security for excitement, traded real love for the illusion of passion. And now, as the fairy tale unraveled in public, she stood on the sidelines, watching the kind of life she could have had if she'd just stayed grounded. The music swelled inside. The bride and groom were dancing, spinning in the glow of paper lanterns. I turned away from Dana and walked back inside, where the laughter was real, the smiles were warm, and the people around me hadn't mistaken novelty for meaning. I didn't know it yet, but that moment, turning my back to her silence, was the true beginning of my healing. It was a Wednesday evening, just after 7, when I heard the knock. Not urgent, not timid, just familiar. I paused mid-chop, salmon fillet on the cutting board, lemon already sliced. For a moment, I hoped it was a neighbor, maybe Allison, dropping off that coffee grinder she borrowed. But when I opened the door, everything around me seemed to still. There she stood, Dana. No makeup, puffy eyes, a cardigan hanging off one shoulder like it had been yanked on during a panic. She looked smaller somehow, as if the wind had been let out of her. Hi, she said softly. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't know where else to go. She glanced behind her, then back to me, eyes wide in that pleading way she used to master. Only this time, it wasn't an act. This time, something inside her had broken. I'm not here to fight, she added quickly. I'm not here to beg. I made a mistake, and I think I finally understand what I gave up. Still, I said nothing. I watched her like a storm cloud, trying to apologize after wrecking the roof. She took a step forward. Can I come in? I stepped aside. Slowly, warily. She entered like a stranger in a sacred place, eyes scanning the room, landing on the new curtains, the rearranged furniture, the shelf where her favorite photo frame used to sit. You changed everything, she murmured. Not everything, I said. She sat at the edge of the couch, her hands fidgeting in her lap. I stayed standing. The distance between us felt necessary. I thought I was chasing freedom, she began, voice cracking. I thought I was running toward something better. But it was a fantasy, and I let it blind me. I didn't interrupt. She needed to speak more than I needed to hear. He's not who I thought he was, she continued, eyes filling. The charm wore off quick. What came after was control, silence, accusations over nothing. If I smiled at a waiter, he'd grill me about it all night. If I wore anything he didn't like, he'd make me change. She wiped her eyes roughly. I used to feel like you watched me too closely. But he made me feel invisible unless I was doing something wrong. And when he finally showed me what he's really like, she trailed off. I saw it in her face, shame. Not just from what she'd endured, but from how far she'd fallen to get there. You don't have to say anything, she whispered. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. I never stopped loving you. I just got lost. I stood there, heart pounding, but not from love. From disbelief. from fury wrapped in restraint, from the knowledge that while I had been rebuilding brick by brick, she had been spiraling. And now, here she was, hoping the door she once slammed shut might still be open. "I didn't come here to hurt you again," she said. "I came because the only time I ever felt safe was here, with you." The room fell into silence again, broken only by the ticking wall clock. I looked at the woman on my couch, the same one who once hurled her wedding ring at my chest, and I said the only thing I could honestly say: "I hear you." But hearing wasn't the same as healing. She looked at me like I was the answer to a test she had just failed. I stood across from her, steady, clear-eyed, and, for the first time since she left, completely in control. "Craig," she began, voice thin as paper. "Say something, please." I pulled out the chair across from her at the kitchen table, sat down slowly, not angry, just resolved. "You know what I've been thinking about lately?" I asked. She blinked, caught off guard by the question. "What?" "Fire," I said. "How quickly it destroys, how thoroughly. You can rebuild after it, sure, but nothing is ever exactly the same. The scent of smoke lingers. The floor creaks in strange places. In some rooms, some just stay ashes." Her eyes filled again. "You think I burned everything. You didn't just burn it," I said calmly. "You soaked it in gasoline first." Dana looked down at her hands. "I made one mistake. One mistake." I leaned forward slightly. "You don't accidentally end up in another man's arms while your husband is making dinner. That wasn't a stumble. That was a decision. 1,000 little decisions that led to one big betrayal." "I thought I wanted something different," she whispered. "I thought he could give me what I couldn't." I finished for her. "Excitement, freedom, thrill, that's what you chased. And now that the thrill has turned cold, you want to come home to warmth." She said nothing. I kept my voice low but firm. "I'm not your backup plan, Dana. I'm not the fire escape you take when the house you built with someone else starts to collapse." But I was confused. "No, you were selfish," I said, cutting through her protest. "You left without hesitation. You tossed our vows like they were receipts from a store you regretted shopping at. You made me doubt myself, question my worth, wonder what I did wrong when the truth was, you were already gone." She started to cry again, quieter this time. The kind of crying that doesn't demand comfort, just release. "I would have forgiven almost anything," I continued. "But what you showed me wasn't just betrayal. It was contempt. You didn't just leave. You humiliated me, made a show of it. Let me watch you erase me in real time." "I was broken," she said through tears. "We all break," I said. "But not everyone burns down the people who love them on the way." She reached across the table, hand trembling. "Is there really nothing left?" I didn't move. "There's clarity," I said. "There's peace. But love? Love doesn't survive the acid of betrayal. You poured it over everything we had." Silence again. And then, her voice, barely above a whisper. "So, this is it." I nodded. "This is the part where we stop pretending that you can shatter something and expect it to hold water again." Dana stood slowly, as if her body finally accepted what her heart had been fighting. And for the first time since she walked back through my door, she didn't beg. She just whispered, "I'm sorry." I looked at her one last time. The woman I once built a life with, and now only shared a past. "Some things, Dana," I said, "you don't get to walk back into after you walk out." The cafe was small, the kind of place that played jazz in the mornings and smelled like cinnamon by noon. A chalkboard menu, wobbly chairs, real mugs, not paper. That morning, I arrived early, nerves buzzing for reasons I didn't fully understand. Then she walked in. Her name was Elise. We'd met through a mutual friend a few weeks back, briefly, casually. But something in her laugh had stayed with me. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flirty. It was real. Now, seeing her walk toward my table with that same easy smile, it felt like sunlight after a long winter. "Hope I'm not late," she said, setting her bag down. "You're right on time," I replied, standing to greet her. And I meant it in more ways than one. We ordered coffee, talked about books, food, growing up in small towns. There was no pressure, no act, no quiet desperation to impress. Just two people being human together. And then, in the middle of a story about her dog chasing a raccoon into a pond, I noticed a figure outside. Across the street, near the corner. Dana. She stood by the flower vendor, pretending to browse. Sunglasses again. Same cardigan. but I knew it was her. She wasn't looking at tulips. She was watching me. Her gaze drifted from me to Elise and back. No movement, no wave, just the stillness of someone absorbing the final blow they never saw coming. Elise followed my eyes, glanced at Dana, then back at me. Friend of yours? I shook my head gently. Just someone from another life. We went back to our conversation, but I knew Dana was still there, watching the man she once called hers smile easily with someone who didn't see him as a burden or a backup plan. And I didn't feel smug. I felt free, not because she was hurting, but because I wasn't anymore. There's a difference. You see, she left chasing a spark and found herself burned. And now, watching from the shadows of her own choices, she finally saw the one thing she never expected, me, happy, without her. And maybe that was the real punishment. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Would you have taken her back? Or walked away like Craig? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories just like this. Raw, honest, and unforgettable. See you in the next one.